Hey, Texas Values friends, Jonathan Tynes here, president of Texas Values. This is our last interview of day 2 at SoConCon, the Social Conservative Conference put on by Family Policy Alliance, and it's being held here in Indianapolis, Indiana. But don't worry, I know this is a special session in Texas. The rest of my team is at the Capitol on the ground. You know, we're the only faith, family, and freedom organization that has someone at the Capitol every day during the regular and any special session, and our office is across the street from the state capitol. And there's important issues that are coming up. The special session started on Monday. It goes for 30 days, working on the Texas Women's Privacy Act, getting that passed. There's also going to be legislation that deals with the chemical abortion pill issue that's become such a big deal. So look for updates on that. And we're going to talk about some of those issues, one in particular during this special segment of the Texas Values Report. Got a great friend who's on the broadcast with me. I think he's probably been on the show before, if I can recall. But he's got a new role. We're going to talk a little bit about that and some important work we're doing. So John Stemberger is the president of Liberty Counsel Action. He also served as the founder and was the president of the Florida Family Policy Council for several decades, and also has a tremendous background for many decades as a lawyer in the state of Florida. So, John, welcome to this Texas Values Report.
Jonathan, good to be with you, man.
So a lot of good stuff happening on our work these days, but there's always work to do. You've taken on a new role in the past year or so at Liberty Counsel Action. My good friend, Matt Staver, who I interned with many years ago when I was just about to get out of law school. So love all the work that Liberty Counsel does. Tell us a little bit about the organization, though, and your role in Liberty Counsel Action.
So Liberty Counsel Ministries is really 8 different entities. The flagship is Liberty Counsel that does litigation, much like ADF would do or something like that. First Amendment litigation, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, life, marriage, and family. And so that's the main organization. I lead the C4, which is the policy and the political operation of the organization.
Right.
There's also a nationwide school, Covenant Journey Academy.
Wow.
There's Christians in Defense of Israel. There's an international relief organization. There's really a number of entities. We even have our own printing operation called New Revolution.
Wow.
State-of-the-art printing for churches and pregnancy centers all over the country. So that's Liberty Counsel Ministries.
That's fantastic. Well, you know what? I forgot to mention in the intro that you also have the honor, the privilege, and a great connection as starting Trail Life USA. I remember you and I were out there in front of the headquarters of Boy Scouts in Irving, Texas. And I think we knew each other a little bit then, but not real well. And so I remember that moment because we're, in my home state, but I woke up at 5 o'clock that morning. The Boy Scouts were in the middle of some controversy and whether or not they were going to, change their definition of boys and all this other stuff that went against their values at the time and our values as Christians. And we were trying to make that stand. And there were a lot of parents there, but I didn't know how many people were going to show up. I wasn't sure when you were going to get into town and how it was all going to come together because it really got dumped on us all of a sudden, and we felt like we had to move quick. So I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I try to pray every day, but there are some moments where I'm literally on my knees in the morning next to my bed because I'm just feeling a lot more weight. And we didn't have a podium. We didn't have time to get a microphone. Our organization had started a year before that. I had, Kelly Shackelford had helped me start Texas Values. And so it was like one of the bigger moments early in my work at Texas Values. And I'm like, literally, Lord, I have no idea how this is going to go. I don't know if anybody's going to show up.
That was a great moment. We had hundreds and thousands of people from all over the country.
It was incredible.
Signs everywhere. We wanted the delegates to see them as they were coming in saying, vote no on the resolution.
People showed up.
Yep.
They did. Great. And I finished my prayer, and like 5 minutes later, my phone started ringing at 5:30. CNN, MSNBC.
Wow. Okay.
They had all showed up, and I was like, well, here we go. Saddle up. And so you're no stranger to these big fights, running to the front to get things done. And I know that's a lot of what Liberty Counsel does. And as I mentioned in the beginning, there's a lot of things going our direction, but there's still important work to do. I know one of the issues that you've been working on is the life issue. You got this great report that you brought to the event, Abortion in Our Water. A special report relates to the chemical abortion issue. Tell us a little bit about what's going on with this.
So we have a website, abortioninourwater.org, and it houses this report, 79 pages with 338 footnotes. It's the first, most comprehensive academic thing out there. We also have the one-pager. If you don't want to read 79 pages, it's just a flyer explaining in one.
We'll put up a link to it, too.
Yeah. So here's the bottom line. The biggest change in the abortion movement, pro-life movement in the last decade or so has been the rise of chemical abortions. During COVID, Chemical abortions, according to Guttmacher, somewhere between 63 to 64%.
We've been hearing that a lot. It's crazy.
And it's
but
probably
true.
it's probably more like 70% if you count all the illegal drugs that are coming into the states. But basically, you're talking about 700,000 women being instructed by abortion providers to dump their dead baby in their toilet. Now, if you're in the abortion clinic, they have by law, they have to capture these things in biohazard waste. They hire companies that do medical waste treatment and all this, and then they incinerate it. Well, guess what? They're bypassing 70% of the abortions now and telling these women, dump your baby in the toilet. Well, guess what? That baby goes in the toilet, and then it goes into either septic tanks or city water treatment plants, which are not designed to handle this kind of cranial structures, sinew, cartilage, bone structure. They can handle feces and blood and urine and all that. They're designed for that. They're not designed to handle these babies. And you're talking about 700,000 times this going on. In a big city like Austin, they don't have any fresh water. They recycle. They literally recycle their toilet water. So they're drinking this, and that's the first part is the medical waste. The second part is the mifepristone. This is the drug that actually blocks the progesterone, which starves the child and kills it. Now, mifepristone is not an organic drug. It doesn't dissolve like a Tylenol, absorb in your body. It has an afterlife. It's a synthetic drug, so it has an afterlife. So after it leaves the mother's body, it still has its therapeutic impact of blocking progesterone. Well, if it's in our water, guess what? It's also rising as chemical abortions are rising. The infertility rate is rising.
Well, we heard some of this testimony in the Texas House committee on the bill that, we're trying to get passed. And we were talking about this earlier. We're still waiting to see what the language looks like. But nonetheless, whatever it turns out to be, there is a problem that needs to be solved. And that's one reason why Governor Abbott has put that bill, along with the Texas Women's Privacy Act, on a list of specific bills saying these bills need to get passed during this current special session in the next 30 days. But I remember during our regular session hearing the testimony on this issue, and the other side, the pro-abortion people, they're like laughing, like as if, oh my God, that's so ridiculous. But part of that is, they don't want people to know this, but I don't think a lot of other people realize this is happening.
Jonathan, if a hospital was dumping medical waste in the toilet, it would be a national scandal.
They'd probably shut them down.
The EPA says you don't even put baby wipes in the toilet, but we're putting babies in the toilet. Imagine that. It's insane what we're doing. And so this is and nobody's studying this. The EPA is not studying, the FDA is not studying. We're appealing to all these guys. Students for Life has done a lot of work in this area. And we're working with them to try to say, hey, you've got to study this junk. They study everything in the water. They study microplastics. They study forever chemicals. They study all this stuff. They're not studying mifepristone. Why? Because it's a political issue. They don't want to touch it. So we have to touch this. We can't. The Joker is literally poisoning Gotham's water supply. Like, it's that kind of urgency. We can't just sit back and say nothing. So this is a very big deal. So there's.
Let me ask you: are other states? You've seen other states that are taking action in the legislature on some of these.
There are states. Maine has tried to do something. We're in the process of educating legislators. Students for Life has a lot of good model bill language. We're developing state bill language as well for legislatures to do things like that. So, but we have to do something. And a lot of this, what's going on at the federal level, is violating state law. They never checked with the states. They just went ahead and approved it because it's abortion.
Well, speaking of the federal level, we know President Trump and all of that group passed the big, beautiful bill recently, and it included defunding Planned Parenthood for a year. Many of us, if not all of us on the pro-life side, would have liked to have seen it go longer, but nonetheless, there's still some significance. And all of these things, I think, suggest that the abortion entities, particularly Planned Parenthood, they're on the ropes, right? They're being pushed back. They're on their heels a little bit. These things coming out more is probably something they don't want people to know about. More important that we talk about it.
And not only is it more damaging to the mother, at least in an abortion clinic, you have a quote-unquote doctor, medical attendants.
Right.
You don't see it. You're not seeing your baby. You're kind of away from it. You're not doing it to yourself. In a chemical abortion, the mother is literally actively killing the baby by putting the pill in her mouth. She sees the baby in the toilet. The trauma is exponentially greater. Now the bathroom becomes a trigger. This becomes an abortion clinic. Her bathroom's an abortion clinic. This is the site of where I killed my baby. And so she has to, instead of it being a place of refuge, it triggers her.
Because they're not required to meet with the doctor.
That's
correct?
Right. That's right. In many states, they're not required.
Well, listen, and you've heard us talk about this issue. We've had people talk about it at different events and legislative testimony. But I do think a lot of people are hearing it for the first time when you and I talk about it. Even more reason for people to know what's going on. And I'm not one, surprising to a lot of people, that thinks a state law is going to solve every problem and that's the solution to every problem. But I tell you what, it does make a significant difference, right? When you put something in the law and say you cannot do this, this is illegal. We've seen abortion clinics after abortion clinics, including one recently in Tyler, shut down because of state law. That's oftentimes one of the biggest ways that we can have an impact on this issue. And groups like Planned Parenthood, who are so dependent on federal tax dollars, it continues to take away from some of their legitimacy and damage their credibility because we know they're doing this stuff.
That's right. So we're talking about somewhere between 40 to 60 tons of medical waste going in every year. This is a crisis. We need the EPA to wake up, smell the coffee. We need the FDA to wake up. We're asking the president. Look, he has said 5 times in major speeches, I want crystal clear drinking water.
Yeah.
He's also at a nuanced position with abortion saying, I'm okay with chemical abortion. Well, you can't have both. Chemical abortion is literally poisoning our water supply. And as chemical abortions are rising, the infertility rate is rising. Because why? Progesterone is in the water. It's blocking the progesterone. The mifepristone is not allowing women to conceive. Same thing with male sperm rate. It's also decreasing male sperm rate is also rising. So you have all these problems compounding. And at micro levels, you have mifepristone in the water. And again, exposure to that on long term. We don't know what it's going to do. There's definitely a correlation. We don't know if there's any causation because there hasn't been any studies done.
Well, let me bring it back home to you a little bit. Matt Staver, over the flagship of Liberty Counsel, I would imagine has had conversations or relationships, if not with the Trump administration or with Trump himself. Any feedback you can give us maybe from that perspective, but also your home state of Florida, Ron DeSantis, very pro-life. Yep. What can you tell us on those two fronts?
So we've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people in D.C. I can't kiss and tell on them.
And I'm not asking you to. Yeah. I appreciate that.
But we're making some real progress. We're making some serious progress. Our hope is that the second MAHA report that's coming out regarding children is going to have some information and requests by the FDA and the EPA to look at these things. Yep. So we're hoping that's going to happen. But we are working this. We're talking to congressional leaders about doing a hearing on Congress. The world needs to know about this, Jonathan. I mean, it's literally like this secret that's everywhere and nobody's talking about it. Yeah. And so we need to sound the alarm. Every pro-life group needs to go to abortioninourwater.org. We have a PowerPoint. You can be the purveyor and lead on this issue. We need everybody to know about this issue. We need many spokespersons. It's a little bit complicated. There's engineering and there's water treatment and there's biology and chemistry, but you can figure it out. It's not rocket scientists. They're giving birth to dead babies, going in the toilet. That goes into the septic tanks. Those septic tanks are being emptied into city water treatment plants. They're clogging them up, and the mifepristone is not a forever chemical, but it has a half-life that continues on in the water. That's affecting infertility. It's affecting a lot of things. This is also an agricultural issue. We've seen mifepristone show up in fish. There's studies that show this, making them more feminine or what have you. And so there's a lot of issues with this. The sludge that comes from the water treatment plants, those go into agriculture. Those go into fertilizer that are in your Home Depot and your Lowe's, right? And so this stuff is in our food even because of the way the agriculture works. So it's a major problem. Nobody's looking at it, and we're sounding the alarm, saying, government, you got to look at this.
No, I agree with you. And remember, that is an issue that Governor Greg Abbott said needs to be handled. Legislation needs to be passed on that. This special session, we've had some problems. The same bill, the same committee where the Texas Women's Privacy Act went to die, same thing happened in the Texas House. Now, they did pass out of that House committee, State Affairs, at almost the last minute when a lot more pressure was coming on Ken King and some House leaders, but there really was no time for anything to happen after that. As a matter of fact, the story I heard, because we're on the ground, is, some paperwork didn't get filed, whatever. This is a big deal, and now that the governor, and I know he was supportive of it before, but for him to put it on the special session call is a stronger indication of him saying, pass these bills. So we still got some time, though. We're almost done with the first week of the special session, so stay connected with our work at Texas Values to see updates. Okay, very important, serious topics. I want to kind of maybe circle back around something more lighthearted. Since you work with Matt Staver, and I was there, not a long time. I interned there. And continue to stay in good relationship with Matt and Anita. But when I was there, I got to ride on the back of the trike. Do you guys ride do you have motorcycles? You guys ride together?
No, we don't.
Has Matt broken out the trike for you?
Everything's changed. It's a big operation now. No more country trikes.
Oh
Right,
my
so, yeah.
gosh, he had the jacket, he had the helmet or whatever, and I loved
If
it.
if he does have it, he hasn't brought it out.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
just say that.
Well,
so.
I love it though because sometimes people only see one sides of our life, and as lawyers, we got to have
Oh,
a
yeah.
tie and be all professional and stuff. And so, but I like to do fun things or whatever. So I loved even as an intern to see Matt sort of like show that part of himself, and he's an even more, I don't want to say more straight-laced guy than I am, but I mean, he's had the same haircut.
He is very sharp and straight-laced as
Yes.
a lawyer, but he can have fun too.
He's-
But he hasn't roller skated yet, though.
No, that's right. Talk about being on wheels. You know how to move. Was it the conference? Was the FEC conference that was in Florida? Where were we there?
As many as possible.
It was
I
like
think
some
DC
get
or
together.
something, so.
And I kind of had the same impression of you too. So we were like, Stemberger's going to get us out on the skating rink. I haven't put on roller skates in, I don't know, 30 years or how long it had been. But I was like, I'm game. But you were like, whoo, you were like, in high school, scooting around. It was fun. But, that's why I got my Texas flag shirt on today. I try to have a little bit of fun when I can. But listen, important work that you're doing. Love to see what you're doing. And, being in the family there with Matt Staver and Liberty Counsel, which I know, is a national organization. Our friend Matt Staver worked with them at one point. So a lot of good people doing great work. And so we'll be rooting for you. And excited that we had John Stemberger, president of Liberty Counsel Action, as our guest today on this special segment of the Texas Valley.